Hello everyone and welcome to Apex Excello Academy. In today's explainer, we're diving deep into Google Notebook LM, and we're going to be looking at it through the lens of two really important scholarly papers by Christa Albrecht-Krijn and Belen Labrador. It's absolutely fascinating how the exact same artificial intelligence tool can be an incredible, empowering asset in one academic context, but kind of a potential hazard in another. So today, we're going to look at Notebook LM from two very different perspectives, a highly positive, data-driven application in corpus linguistics, and a much more critical pedagogical evaluation in the field of education.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Introducing Google Notebook LM. 2. The personalized AI expert. 3. Success in corpus linguistics. 4. The educational misalignment problem. 5. Statistical compression versus cognition. And finally, 6. The value of friction. Let's jump right in.
All right, Section 1, Introducing Google Notebook LM. Google markets this tool as an AI-powered research assistant, and it has been making massive waves in academia lately. A big part of why people love it so much is the interface. It brilliantly mimics the traditional research process with a really clean three-panel design. On the left, you've got a panel to gather all your sources. In the center, there's a chat panel to analyze and actually converse with those documents. And over on the right, a studio panel to present your findings where it can generate things like study guides or even pretty wild podcast-style audio conversations. It looks and feels incredibly intuitive.
But the core mechanism that really sets Notebook LL apart from a general chatbot like your standard ChatGPT is a process called source grounding. Instead of scouring the open, chaotic internet to try and answer your prompts, Notebook LM restricts its computational focus exclusively to the documents you upload. Whether that's a stack of PDFs, Google Docs, or transcripts, it basically builds a walled garden out of your own curated data.
Which brings us to Section 2, the personalized AI expert. To really understand the true power of this source grounding feature, we're turning to the research of Belen Labrador, who tested this tool extensively in the field of contrastive linguistics.
Labrador writes, and I quote, "Notebook LM grounds its responses solely in the sources provided by the user, making it a personalized AI expert on the user's specific information." End quote. So the absolute crucial point here is control. For an academic researcher who needs to analyze trusted, verified data, general AI hallucinations are a total nightmare. But by processing only those uploaded texts, Notebook LM gives the researcher precise control. It transforms the AI from a wild guesser into a laser-focused, customized research assistant. Moving right along to Section 3, Success in Corpus Linguistics. Labrador set up this really fascinating case study using a massive database of, wait for it, online cheese descriptions. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of words entirely about cheese, 400 Spanish texts and 600 English texts to be exact. Now, traditionally, linguists use corpus browsers to find word collocations and frequency rates, but Labrador fed this entire massive cheese database directly into Notebook LM to see if it could comprehend the broader qualitative picture.
And the results were brilliant. The AI successfully synthesized all of that massive text in seconds, generating highly accurate summaries for both the English and Spanish subcorpora. It accurately extracted qualitative themes, things like historical significance, distinct cheese-making processes, and complex organoleptic properties like taste and texture. It even helped identify stylistic differences. It noted that the English descriptions were generally more concise and factual, while the Spanish text used much more evocative, enthusiastic language focused on cultural heritage.
So what you should take away from this is that for an expert researcher managing overwhelming amounts of data, Notebook LM is a genuine triumph. It processes only user-uploaded texts, it facilitates rapid synthesis, and it extracts qualitative themes with really high accuracy. Now, it doesn't replace traditional quantitative corpus tools that count words and track syntax, but it beautifully complements them by acting as a highly efficient, holistic synthesizer. In this context, frictionless efficiency is exactly what the professional needs.
But here is where we must pivot. The very thing that makes Notebook LM an absolute dream for a professional researcher, that frictionless efficiency, might be exactly what makes it a danger for a student. While Belen Labrador highlights the triumph of research efficiency, scholar Christa Albrecht-Krijn introduces us to the danger of educational misalignment. We're shifting our focus now from a professional's need to organize data to a student's need to actually develop their own mind.
Which brings us to Section 4. The educational misalignment problem. Albrecht-Krijn offers a really sharp, eye-opening critique of how consumer-facing generative AI technologies, despite their slick marketing as learning tools, fundamentally misalign with core educational values.
To understand why, let's unpack Section 5, Statistical Compression versus Cognition. We really need to pull back the curtain on the underlying mechanics of large language models, or LLMs, to see why they might actually fail as true educational aids. You see, NotebookLM's interface encourages you to imagine that the AI is reading and deeply engaging with the text. But the technical reality is entirely different. Albrecht Crane states it perfectly. Quote, "Statistical compression methods fundamentally differ from human cognitive processes of reading and analysis. This right here is the foundational illusion of AI. A computer program does not read. It doesn't think. It doesn't reason. It relies on a process called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG, to find chunks of text that match your prompt. And then it uses a language model to statistically predict the next most likely words. That's it." Breaking down the technical reality of it further, because LLMs are trained on vast amounts of internet text, they're essentially just formulaic genre machines. When you ask it for a summary, it convincingly reproduces the conventional form and tone of a summary. It mimics comprehension by guessing relevant tokens based on chunks of text. So it's pattern-driven and compression-focused. And importantly, Albert Crane points out that despite source grounding, confabulation, hallucinating information, still persists. Why? Because the base model is ultimately just performing statistical optimization, not actual reasoning. It compresses, it doesn't comprehend.
Ultimately, this leads us to Section 6, the value of friction. NotebookLM is a prime example of extreme usability design. It is built to make everything as easy, smooth, and frictionless as humanly possible. You upload a dense 50-page academic paper, and literally 3 seconds later, you get a bulleted study guide and a highly entertaining audio conversation. It removes all the effort. But in education, removing effort is a massive problem.
Because good education fundamentally requires what pedagogues call productive failure. It requires the pleasure and, the pain of wrestling with difficult ideas. Any writing teacher will tell you that reading complex texts and writing analytical summaries is hard. It is inherently difficult cognitive labor. But that struggle, that messy, uncertain process of working through a text, is exactly how humans build intellect, analytical depth, and critical thinking skills.
So we have to stop and ask ourselves, does a frictionless interface help or harm us in a learning environment? When a student uses extreme usability tools to completely bypass the messy work of reading and summarizing, they're engaging in cognitive offloading. The interface obscures the computer's limitations while simultaneously undermining the student's cognitive development. We don't need a program that removes the necessary component of effort. We need the time and space to actually engage in it.
So, let's synthesize what we've learned from both of these brilliant scholars. It turns out context is quite literally everything. In Belin-Labrador's context, an expert linguist who already possesses deep analytical skills and just needs to sort through 1,000 texts, NotebookLM's frictionless efficiency is a total godsend. It's an amazingly empowering tool for managing professional research data. But in Krista Albrecht Crane's context, a student in a classroom who is still developing their human intellect, that exact same frictionless efficiency is potentially harmful because it bypasses the productive friction necessary for actual learning.
As we navigate this crazy new technological landscape, we really must practice critical AI literacy. We can't just blindly accept the hype. We have to understand both the incredible capabilities and the fundamental limitations of the tools we use. I want to leave you with this one provocative thought. In a world that is designing friction out of every single process, how will you preserve the necessary friction for meaningful learning in the age of AI? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If this deep dive helps you think a little differently about the tools we use, please be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.